that'll be fine as well. So we can preserve the bandwidth. And the objective of this webinar is there is no legal advice or no financial advice. This is all about educating our community, the impact, the financial impact, the immigration impact, and what are the possible business impact. This is primarily done by ATEA, American Tamil Entrepreneur Association. So it means that we are here to educate our American Tamil entrepreneur community. And in this process, we also have a lot of participants who are not entrepreneurs, but aspiring entrepreneurs or future entrepreneurs. Those who are going to be, they're also part of this event. So the objective here is, once again, create the awareness. What are the possibilities? Even though we are living in a very, very tough situation or a time, which I don't think any of us have ever faced this kind of situation. So with our panelists, we will share what kind of opportunities we have, even though this is a big challenge, but I see this as an opportunity. We from ATA, that this is an opportunity for us to prepare ourselves for the better future. So having said that, we have 4 great panelists. I would like to introduce one at a time. First one, I would like to introduce Mr. Ganesh Radhakrishnan from New Jersey. Ganesh.
Good morning.
Good
morning, everyone.
Good morning, Ganesh. So he's a serial entrepreneur, and he has got multiple US patents, worked with the large corporations, worked as a partner with Deloitte, and he worked for HP. And currently he runs a company called Wharfedale Technologies based in New Jersey. They specialize in SAP, cloud, AI, machine language. Those are the technologies that they focus on. The second panelist that I would like to introduce, Praveen Chathappuram. He's a CFA and he's a senior VP at Byline Bank, the bank based in Chicago. He is a commercial banking officer. That means, if you are applying for a loan, especially during this tough time, he has got a lot of information and he's hands-on with helping our customers, or the customers who are looking for the COVID-19 solution for the challenges that they're facing. And not only that, he's a big community organizer, supporter. He supports various community activities like two-page pads, Upnagar, and he's based in Chicago. So before I move to the next panelist, I wanted to thank specifically Ganesh Radhakrishnan. He was a major donor for our 10th World Conference, Tamil World Conference in Chicago. Thank you, Ganesh, for that.
Thank you. No mention. Yeah.
All right. So the third panelist, another very enterprising entrepreneur person, travels across the globe, well known in southern part of India, but he's not based in India. He's based here in Virginia, and primarily he's the DC chapter for ATA chapter chair in the DC area. His name is Prabakaran Murugaiah from Virginia. But thank you for joining, Prabakar. So he runs a technology company. He's once again serial entrepreneur, got a lot of experience in the technology space, and he runs a company called TechFetch, and it's one of the largest technology platform for matching job seekers with the right resumes or resumes with the jobs. So it's an excellent platform. And he's also one of the core team members from ATEA. Not the last is not the least, one of the most favored attorneys in Chicagoland, Mary Kennedy. Mary, thank you for joining us. And she's always smiles. And anytime you talk to her, as if she has no problem in life. I don't know why, how. But she's an excellent attorney based here in Chicago, very close to where I live. She primarily focuses on the business as well as the family-based or individual-based. So if you are looking for some legal advice or help, I think Mary is the right person to speak to. And we will provide all this contact information for every panelist after the meeting. Either we will post it on the chat box, or we will also send you an email so you can reach out to them directly. So before we get started, I just wanted to make sure that this is not a legal advice or a financial advice or your career advice. So this is an education for us how to prepare ourselves for a better future. And if you're faced with some challenges, what kind of opportunities there for you to avail and make use of it. So, and when the opinions expressed here by the panelists are not the opinions of the ATEA. So let's be very clear here. This ATEA is an organizing committee, and we are not agreeing or disagreeing with any of the expressions or the opinion expressed by the panelists. So I think this is now the time for us to get into the meat of the webinar. So, everybody, I hope you all washed your hands today. Keep your social distancing within your family, even though my wife and I are distancing quite a bit, 2 separate rooms. Make sure that we are not very close, and my son lives in an apartment. So we are trying to see how to be very socially distancing even within the house. And then I hope you all follow the same thing. Safety is the most important thing. The health is the most important thing. And I believe it, and I hope you all follow that. So let's get started. The first question for Ganesh. So Ganesh, you've been in the business for a long time. You've seen ups and downs, 2001, 2007, Gulf War, possibly. Now this is something called COVID. It is like a tsunami. I don't think we ever anticipated this would come this fast, and nobody knows why we got here, how we got here. So what do you see with all these challenges that we are facing? What do you see an opportunity for people, especially immigrant community like us, Tamil immigrant community? We have people who work in the jobs. We have businesses. What's your perspective? Where do you think that things are going to go from now on?
Thank you, Velu. And first of all, I wanted to thank all the healthcare workers and researchers who are on the front line fighting this COVID-19. You are absolutely right. Compared with any other outbreak, COVID-19 is having an unprecedented impact on markets, and rather than what market have seen in 1987 or December 2008, or even before that in late 1929 or late 30s. So the global market has really lost about $16 trillion in value. But the good part is this week the stock started rebounding, and it had a best week since 1974, thanks to all the federal government help with their stimulus packages and other initiatives they are taking to reignite the economy. You are absolutely right. We are facing a global crisis, unlike anyone we have known also. But to stay positive and happy, it is not our choice, It is the only way to move forward. It is the only way to live life. I claim that this too shall pass, We have to develop our mindset with clear-cut thoughts that nothing is permanent in life. And we need to accept the current situation. More importantly, we have to be thankful that no matter what, we are alive today and blessed to stay healthy, because there are a lot of people who are affected. Our Indian community in America, around the globe, with this virus, and they are facing more tough time than what we are. So this is a great opportunity for us to rethink and retool ourselves. As I strongly feel, we had been outdated, and this is a great opportunity for our community to rethink and to stay away from, I call it negative people, because negativity is something we cannot afford at this time, and we need to work toward positivity. And a recession is not always, is always followed by a recovery. So I would say to our Indian community, our Tamil community around the world, that we don't need to worry about the future. There is a great future opportunities out there, and as we move forward, we can discuss a lot.
Perfect. Thank you, Ganesh. Thank you for that opening remarks. So now let's get to the money, right? So we all going to be somewhat directly affected or indirectly affected. You have your 401k, you probably will have a tough time with. If you're a consultant, you might have a job, you may not have a job. And if you're a business owner, that is definitely an impact. Every business is impacted, except few businesses who produce like a Zoom or those kind of companies. They're actually hiring, bless them. It's important that there is always a positive side. But a lot of people are impacted financially. A lot of people are losing jobs, and a lot of businesses are struggling to pay the workers. So we have a Praveen who is from Byline Bank. Praveen is one of our panelists, and as you know, he's a well-known banker in the Chicagoland, especially in the Byline, small to medium-sized businesses. He's very actively involved. So Praveen, when you and I talked yesterday, there are a lot of opportunities for people looking for financial help. Where do you think as a business owner would go to seek help? What kind of opportunities there for them to make use of it quickly rather than a bureaucratic process of taking 3-4 months to figure this out? What's your thought? Can you help us to understand what the opportunities are?
There are 3 opportunities, I think, within the banking community. 2 are offered by the CARES Act. One is the PPP, which is the Paycheck Protection Program. And the other one is through EIDL, which is directly through the SBA, which is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. And the third opportunity is directly with your bank, whichever bank you're working with. Banks have given, the federal government has given banks flexibility in regards to deferrals. So even your home mortgage, you can actually call your bank and get a deferral for 90 days, which then gets added out to the loan and you amortize it over a period of time. You can do the same thing for your commercial loan in terms of your line of credit or equipment financing or any term debt that you have. So the first I would ask is contact your bank and see if there's any deferral programs available. They're all opt-in, so you'll have to call and ask to be opted into those programs. And it's basic as a modification to your existing loan documents to achieve that deferral. So you have a 90-day period of relief, and then it'll start amortizing after that. 2, the PPP, which is the Paycheck Protection Program, it's about $350 billion that the SBA has authorized, and you apply that directly through your existing bank, and your bank works with the SBA to get that approved. And you can essentially take your average monthly payroll times 2.5 times to the maximum loan amount that you can apply for, and there's a cap of $10 million. So it goes towards W-2 employees, cashes, wages, tips. If you have a partnership or a sole proprietor, then you'll have to apply separately, individually through that program. You could only apply this for W-2 employees. So starting yesterday, the banks are allowed to take applications for those sole proprietors with 1 employee or independent contractor or a 1099 employee. The loan is for one. The rate is fixed at 1%, and if you use it for covered expenses, it is completely free.
Praveen, can I interrupt you for a second? If you can slow down on your speech, some people have some challenges in listening. So if you can slow down, please.
Okay, no problem. So the loan is forgivable as long as you use it for covered expenses, and covered expenses are payroll expenses, employee salaries, mortgage interest, rent and utilities, and interest on debt that was incurred before February 15th of 2020. So as long as you use those loan proceeds for those covered costs, the entire principal and interest amount will be forgiven by the federal government. So what you do, the process is you apply for the PPP loan, you provide the payroll documentation, the loan gets approved, it gets funded, and 7-8 weeks after the loan has been funded, you apply for the loan forgiveness part. And the payments are deferred for 6 months with this PPP program. The total term, if you take it out full, is about 2 years. And if you do use it for any of the non-covered expenses, then you'll have to pay the loan back, and it'll be prorated based on what you used it for covered expenses versus non-covered. There's no personal collateral for this loan, and there's no guarantee that you provide for the loan as well.
So
go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I had a lot of questions. When you say it's like a free money for me, so I would just keep quiet before I interrupt. Sorry.
So that's the Paycheck Protection Program in summary. The other program is the EIDL, which is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. That you apply directly with the SBA. Now the SBA has said you have to either use the PPP or the EIDL. It's one or the other. You can't do both. The cap on the EIDL is $2 million. The rate is 3.75%, so it's a little higher. And right now it's not forgivable. There is talk in Congress about forgiving this loan as well, but as of now, it's not forgivable. But the term is 30 years. So you pay this loan over 30 years. And again, you're supposed to use it to cover payroll, any fixed debt payments. So you can just take that money and consolidate your existing debt or pay off your debt. You can make your required monthly principal and interest payments. You can use it to pay accounts payable, so your vendors, and any other payments that you're not able to make because of COVID-19. And you'll have to keep documentation for both of these loans for at least 3 years, documenting what you use the proceeds for.
Interesting. So this PPP, the EDIL, you said there is no collateral, but does it mean that you're supposed to use this only for payroll, correct? Paying employees, you lay off people.
Yep. PPP, there's no collateral, there's no guarantee, and it's forgivable. EIDL, they do take a lien on your business. It'll be behind your existing bank and till they get one-to-one collateral. So if they don't have one-to-one collateral, they may even take a mortgage on your house as additional collateral under the EIDL program. And you do personally guarantee the EIDL loan, whereas the PPP, there's no guarantee or there's no collateral.
I hope people are using it for the right purpose here. People are not abusing it. They take the money and they might have some money in the bank already. How do you know that they're really using this money for a payroll versus they put in the bank, make some more money?
What I've recommended to my clients is to open a separate account and deposit the proceeds of this loan into that account, and then run your payroll or your covered expenses through there. So if you do get audited, you just provide that bank statement and all the details will be there. So you don't commingle the funds with your existing operating account.
Great. So I'm sure there will be a lot of questions from our audience, so we will wait to hear from them. But what about people who lost jobs, who don't have business? My son is in college. His question is, when do I get the IRS check so I can pay my credit card statement? So what do you think about those people who lost jobs at the same time, kids who are in college? Do they get any benefits?
Not under the PPP unless their employer applies to the PPP, they can pay. So if they have been laid off during this period, as long as you rehire those people and get to the full employment level by June 30th, the employer qualifies for the PPP, and then they can use that proceeds to pay the employee. You will have to apply directly with the IRS through your accountant for the $1,200 stimulus check, or you have to do unemployment if you're an employee that's unemployed. But if you are self-employed and you have a 1099 that you get starting April 10th, which is yesterday, you can apply for the PPP with the 1099 as a proof of your payroll.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I assume that there are a lot of information available on the websites and places to go to get all this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I sent you a link yesterday that you can share with your members where there's a FAQ on the Treasury website with all the questions you need, answers that you need for the PPP, who qualifies and.
Thank you. So folks who are watching the webinar, I will share the information. Praveen has sent some information. I will certainly share with you. So that the next question is, there are a lot of businesses have, especially we are, Tamil community, Indian community, a lot of them are immigrants, or most of us are immigrants. So there is an immigration challenges that every business is facing. If you have, whether it's a small company, a large company, individual. My dad is stuck in India right now, so I'm trying to see how we can bring him back here. He's on green card, and he should be here within a year. So there is a lot of immigration challenges that we are facing. So Mary, this is I think I would call it crisis beyond imagination. I'm sure you are getting calls in the middle of the night, maybe early morning, across the globe. What is happening within this immigration situation for the business, individuals, family-based? If you can give us a good summary on what's happening on that, and what kind of help we can get to educate ourselves.
Yes, Velu. Thanks for your gesture on my smile. That has been with me for a long time. Yeah, so with a positive note, as Ganesh also shared, there is a lot of panic environment, particularly like with the non-immigrants who are over here. So many of insecurities that's going around, and that's the reason we had so many, back and back calls along with one other Tamil attorney, Kavita also. And yes, as much as possible, we are trying our best to, guide them on what is the possibilities that's going on. So on a general basis, there is some lenience that has been provided by USCIS, but not to that level of expectation that would have been done. And most of the communities aware of, particularly the non-immigrants. ATEA has filed a lawsuit last week on that basis to extend the deadline, as like all the other most of the federal agencies has come up with. But at this point of time, there is nothing that has been given a lenience for the extension of, say, for example, a person's H-1B is getting, expired, the I-94 is getting expired, and not much, it's the same grace period that has been provided in 2017. Still, we are following up the same 60 days grace period on that point. And there are some extension of RFE submission, other details towards it, but not to a level of where we can say that COVID-19 has, has been a situation where people are in a panic and there is so much of job loss on top of it. That's not the lenient that was expected from USCIS, and still it's not yet approved. And DOL also has said the same, whatever has been provided earlier, the short-term memo and other related stuff is the only lenient that has been given, and not much is done. But ATEA has filed a lawsuit, and which we are expecting some positive response from that, where it will help the non-immigrant community on that basis to see that what can be done to help the situation.
So what happens, Mary, with respect to the family-based immigration? Are they on hold? Are they processing it? Is there any change to the family-based immigration?
I would say, just to start with, on an overall basis, what we see is the premium processing has been suspended, which is reasonable because we expect the processing to be done in 15 days, which is not possible in this situation for the USCIS officers, or still most of the USCIS follows the paper filing, so it's not practically possible. But other than that, we see that when we file whatever we had been continuously doing, working hard towards it, even with our remote taxes, with our employees and everything, nothing as of now has stopped where we still see the checks getting cleared for any other H-1B extensions or amendments and everything that's happening. The only news that we heard was Vermont Service Center is going to be temporarily closed because of the COVID-19 cases that has been heard of. And so they're trying to clean it up. But other than that, not much of an impact. I see that the process might get slowing down in this one, but nothing has stopped except that in person, the biometrics and whatever has been on the safety concerns that has been stopped. So when you say that to the family-based immigration, like when you compare it to that of the other business-based immigration, the result you're seeking is not that critical because we both do both of them. So it's the interview getting postponed, but really it's not an impact when it compared to that of a on a business-based immigration, because the timeline factor I see on the business-based immigration. So with a layoff, for example, we had a situation last week, a person's extension has been applied for, his I-94 is getting expired on April 17th. And the employer called me with a conference call with the employee saying that he has been laid off. Yesterday was the notice period that has been given. So this kind of a situations he has to face is even the 60 days grace period is not eligible for him because his I-94 is expiring on April 17th. So he has to find another job within this time period of April 17th, or he has to make a provision to leave the country as soon as possible. So this is very critical, and there is not much, as we said earlier, lenience is being provided. So at least we would definitely expect USCIS to step forward, and AILA's, I would say definitely there is an applaud for AILA to stepping in to see that it has been, and I see that so many places expecting the 60 days grace period to be extended even more, like at least 90 or 180 days on this basis.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm sure there are a lot of questions. The questions are popping out right now, so we will hold off. I'll come back to you. Thank you for sharing that. Certainly, I'm sure you can help us, our viewers or the attendees, with some information, education. We will have them contact you, or you can give us some link we can share with them. So we will come back to you. We have a lot of questions. Prabakar, what do you see? Are you seeing a lot of layoffs already? Do you see more resumes coming onto your platform?
Thank you very much for having me. So we are in a very difficult situation right now. It's been accelerated. So I'll give a little background so that everyone will have a clue of maybe 18 months to 3 years to 5 years horizon. So the virus issue may look like a short term, but this is going to entirely disrupt the technology workforce industry. So when I started TechFetch, it was called Corp to Corp in 2007 and 8. That was the time that I have started. But that time it was a recession, I didn't know. So I started the company, but it was a recession. And a lot of people started getting laid off. So from that point to today, it's been 12 years we're running this tech workforce platform. We have about 1.5 million registered candidates on our system. So we tracked pretty much in the last 12 years of evolution, how the industry has been changed, what jobs are coming in, what skills are changing, what skills are getting obsolete. One of the interesting fact that we have identified in the last 12 years, TechFetch, we focus on tech jobs, that too in the consulting and contracting industry. So if somebody is looking for a job today, they come and post the resume and they get 10, 20 calls in the same day or maybe next day. And most of those jobs are get filled in less than 24 hours. So this is a very high demand, highly niche consulting industry. That's the predominant market that we are working on. So we have the pulse of the market than anybody else. So I have started seeing the problem or forecasting the recession 6 to 9 weeks ago, even before this COVID-19 issue. So already we are seeing some kind of a recession signs, because the first impact is the temporary jobs, either in IT or non-IT. So that's the first sign, because we have seen that before. Same thing, when the market recovers, when we are coming out of recession, we are the first one to notice that when we are recovering. So we know that signs 6 to 9 weeks or even 12 weeks before. So with that 12 years of history, I want to give a couple of, or maybe 3 good inputs for everybody to get prepared. By 2025, so our original projection data and analytics, by 2025, from now to 5 years, we were projecting 50% of skills that we have today will not exist. 50% of skills that we have today will not exist in 2025. That was the projection. But today, the landscape has been changed, and the current projection, still we don't have a clue, probably 18 months. So 50% of skills that we have today probably may not exist in 18 months. So be prepared for changing career, learning some new skills, upskilling, all those things, number one. And second is, most of the requirements, most of the jobs that are in the tech space today, looking for hands-on technical experience. When people post a resume, we collect the data that are you unemployed. In that list, the number one skill set or a title that they are saying that unemployed are project managers. Okay. So if you are a project manager, you are on the top of the list. So be prepared to be a hands-on technical. That is the second input. Okay. Third input is an opportunity. In this 18 months, this may be an opportunity for you to transform yourself, or going to different skill sets, or getting into a different environment, because this is the best time that you save 2 or 3 hours of your driving time, travel time. That gives an extra time to learn something. So this is the best time to learn new skill set, or transforming yourself into a new industry. We can discuss a little later on what those opportunities are, but to give 1 minute summarized, what we need to do is take a look at, if you are in the industry for 10, 20 years, you probably know very well, but I'll give a little background. We moved from mainframe to client server a long time back. That's the time that Oracle, Visual Basic, all those things came, and then a lot of jobs were created. From that, we moved to, in between Y2K came in, but then we moved to .com, then we moved to cloud. Now, in the cloud, all of us are predominantly in the infrastructure modernization. But in the new future, we will be going towards digital transformation. That is probably 20 times larger than the infrastructure modernization. So I'm throwing all these buzzwords that will help you to Google and identify, just to use one query, digital transformation. What we are doing today on this webinar, this is a digital transformation. We host a lot of events to bring 70, 80 people. We need to spend a lot of time and money and effort and panel and everything. Today, just within 5 minutes, we are able to come on the webinar, and then there are several hundred people today watching and listening, and we are equipping ourselves to learn more. This is the digital transformation. This is how the workforce will go. So what will happen when we come out of this virus crisis? At least 30 to 40% of current tech jobs will not be there. 30 to 40%.
Thank you, Prabakar. I appreciate it. So Ganesh, when you are listening to Prabakar, and when I'm listening, and I like, whoa, I'm an old timer, and I've been in the business or in the industry for about 25 years or plus. I'm an optimistic guy. When I say optimistic, I see there is always an opportunity. There is past is past. Nobody can come back or go back to the past. When you look at this, especially globally, when this tsunami is happening, the so-called COVID, what do you see that 1 or 2 things that the company should do to equip themselves so they can provide a better opportunity for employees? We can all say everything, but at the end of the day, organizations have a bigger power. They have a lot more, there's a lot more money they have. So in your opinion, being a CEO of a company, what will you be recommending for entrepreneurs to prepare for the company to be the next generation company?
First of all, thanks to Prabakar, he was on the dot and he helped me a lot to answer your question. One of the specific things we need to look at is the 2008 financial crash.
Mhm.
And during that time, millions lost their homes, their savings, and also their jobs. And the economy went on a free fall. It was not like how COVID happened in 4 weeks, where the plummeting of both Dow and S&P or NASDAQ. That great recession in 2008 was triggered by the collapse of an economic bubble that is purely fueled by institutions. We all know banks were making money selling loans to Wall Street. But today, that is not the case. And we have seen already more than 10 million people have applied for unemployment. But we need to take some lessons learned after the 2008 recession, when it ended somewhere in 2009 June. The companies that grew after the last recession really acted early.
Mm.
They took a long-term perspective. They focused on their growth, not just cost cutting. So they were preparing for tomorrow's downturn. And the question for that they took is, if you really look at fast-growing businesses with breakthrough technologies, is almost immune to these downturns. And research clearly shows technology businesses fared much better in the last downturn. And it is also true at this given stage. If you truly look at it, technology stocks are performing much better. Now, being most of our Indian communities are working on technology, me and Prabakar are trying to focus that particular industry. And I feel that we are in an uncharted waters at this given point. But business leaders should take decisive decisions to ensure that organizations are resilient. Now, saying that, I would like to say business leaders have to first concentrate how to first respond to this particular crisis. That means I'm talking about business or managing continuity of their business. And once they have that in place, then they should see how to recover. The recovering is nothing but emerging with a stronger strategies for the next 12 or 18 months. And finally, I felt they can thrive. And the stocks are going to come back. I could clearly see that what has happened now, yes, Prabakar is right. The damage has created, but you need to understand when last time when a free fall of an economy happened, there was no money. Even though now $16 trillion have vanished in global market, close to 6 to 7 trillion you can expect in US, but the businesses are still there. Retails have been closed, travel industry have been closed. You can see entertainment industry, all are coming back. The unemployment, what people have filed, if this crisis get over and the market started opening, people are going to get jobs. That's the first point.
Thank you so much. So I have a question, but I'm looking for 30-second answer. Praveen, we don't have money in the US. We are giving 3 trillion, 2 trillion. I don't even know how many zeros there for each trillion. Where is the money coming from? We are cutting the taxes. We don't have money and we are giving money away. And you are giving a lot of money to the people. How are you doing it? Where is the money coming?
Essentially, the government is printing money. So we're financing our deficits by printing money. If you look at back to 08, 09, we had $450 to $500 billion US physical dollars in circulation. You look at the physical circulation today, we have over 5 trillion. So over the last 12 years, the US government has printed $4.5 trillion in physical dollars, right? And that's the hard thing is there is no price discovery in the marketplace anymore, right? And the markets have been addicted to the printing of money as kind of like cocaine, like a drug. where anytime they say that they're going to stop printing money, the entire market shuts down or collapses. So I don't know how you go back to normal, but I know the Fed even last week came out and said they're going to pump 2.3 trillion, which is basically quantitative easing, printing money to support the financial markets. Because one of the things that happened in 08, 09 that caused so long for it to recover was that the financial markets collapsed. So even if you had the housing bubble that burst, we should have recovered a lot faster. But the reason we didn't recover faster is because the financial markets collapsed, where the money market broke the dollar, the repo market, the funding market stopped, right? And the key that we learned from that crisis to going into this crisis is that the Fed said, we're not going to let any of the financial markets collapse, because then they'll speed up the time the market will recover from this crisis. So far, none of the repo markets, none of the money market accounts or the short-term funding markets have collapsed. And the Fed has basically opened their checkbook and said, we'll do whatever it takes so it doesn't happen. So we recover from this a lot faster than the 08, 09 recession.
So when you are saying we are printing the money, there is no strategy behind of how to pay it back, whether maybe I look older, you look younger. Maybe I'll work longer and you work longer too. Is that how it means? What it means for all of us? Because we don't have the money, and I'm always surprised with that.
There is a new theory out there called MMT, Modern Monetary Theory. And I think, I think Bernie Sanders' campaign and Alexandria Cortez campaign, they believe in this modern monetary theory a lot. There's not enough evidence there. It's a theory, it hasn't proven yet. But essentially, what it says is you can print money to pay for these social costs and these and tax cuts or whatever it is, because we've been running a deficit for a long time. Now, the interesting thing is, like, you look at Germany, right? Germany, they're actually running a surplus, right? So they collect more tax revenue than they spend. And they've been using those funds to actually pay their debt down, their government debt. So they're going from 80% debt to GDP to 60% debt to GDP. And their yield on government yield went negative. So essentially, you're paying the government to borrow money from you, which has never happened before in our history. And the reason it turned negative is every loan that is priced, it's priced off of a risk-free asset. The risk-free asset is a government bond, because that should be the safest borrower out there is your government. Like, U.S. government is the safest borrower. And then every other credit, you add a spread to it. So you say U.S. Treasury plus 130 for investment grade, U.S. Treasury plus 300 for a small to mid-sized company, U.S. Treasury plus 500 for a junk bond. So all the interest rate is calculated based on the U.S. Treasury rate plus a credit spread and a liquidity spread, right? And in these times of crisis, everyone buys government bonds because that's the safest asset. So demand for those assets go up, which drives down the yield. In Germany's case, they're not issuing new treasury bonds, right, or bonds, because they're actually paying back the debt. So there's more demand than there's supply for the bond, which ended up, and they're in a recession, so it turned negative. So what they're asking Germany to do is you have to increase your government spending and run a deficit, so you have treasury bonds that you issue in the marketplace, so you can actually turn that interest rate positive, right? And no matter how much we've been printing, interest rate has, been the lowest it has been in the last 50, 60 years. So it's an interesting phenomenon. No one really knows why or how to get out of this scenario. The only thing they know is they don't want to be Japan, because once you get into a deflationary trend, we don't know what to do. No one knows what to do. So to prevent a deflation, they're willing to do anything it takes to continue the moderate inflation trend.
Thank you for sharing. It's going above my head, but I can say that we are giving a lot of money away. Hopefully we all, a lot of us are not here financially knowledgeable or educated as much as you are. And any information that you want to share with our ATEA community, please do so, because we need to be prepared. It's like a coronavirus. We were not prepared. We did not know this was coming. So when it came, now we are struggling to figure out how to survive make sure that we move on with our life. I think then the next tsunami, in my opinion, is going to be the financial crisis, which we do not know. Well, I don't think anybody has a good understanding about how this is all going to impact us in the long term, even though this is the strongest country on earth in terms of GDP. But how is this going to affect the gap between poor and rich? Those things are going to be affecting us tremendously, even though most of us in Indian communities are considered a middle class or above middle class. It will affect us and we should be cognizant about it. So we should pay attention to the financial. One quote that I was reading an article, I was also in a conference. If you are an entrepreneur now, and if you're going to be an entrepreneur, an aspiring entrepreneur, one of the things that I strongly believe, and I also follow, you spend more time and money in servicing the customer. Do an extra step to do your service. Don't worry about selling it. Do focus on service. Service is going to be the differentiator for you compared to your product or your service that you're already doing. If you're an immigration service, do a better customer service. If you're a product-based, do a better customer service. I think this is an opportunity. So when the market comes up, you will be known for your best customer service, not for your best product or your best business service. So something that I was fascinated by reading that article, and I strongly believe that, and the company that I work for, they pride themselves. So now, Mary, there are lots of questions for you. We have one of the things, especially we have a lot of H-1B people, then H-4 EAD folks, when they lose job, will they be able to claim any unemployment?
All right. Yeah. Before getting into the question, I totally agree with you on the service providing. Most of the time, I kind of feel the last 3 weeks I'm doing just a counseling rather than giving any legal advice to the people, because they just want to know. They know the answer. It's not like it's open. Everybody knows what it is, but still they want to hear from someone. I had a client last week. He had a phone call with me, and he said he was laid off, and then he has 2 jobs and he couldn't figure it out. But the way that he presented earlier was, I'm so confused, I'm sleepless. Then the next day, I just clarified all his legal questions, and end of it, I told him, at this situation, you have 2 offers, as well as within the 60 days grace period, you're in a very better position, and you should not be, concerned about it. And I totally believe this is a land of opportunity. So, as long as you're skilled, as Prabakar rightly mentioned, I would always say to any of my, the companies or clients, whoever we work with, just, that's a very good thought process, that you have to be prepared and don't take anything for granted where you are. Just don't be stay in a place where you are at this point of time. So that's what we are doing, providing more of services, and anytime, a small word of assurance to people that will help them a long way rather than going deep into a legal question. So a few things before we start with the H4 EAD and unemployment. The first one I want to clarify is the H4 EAD or H4 as such is totally dependent on the H1B. So there are very few nuances. Everybody has to be particular about what kind of an advice and what situation they are in, because so many things cannot be related as one answer for everything. So H4 totally depends on the H1B status as such. So that's the first thing they have to be, as long as the H1B has been able to continue his status in US, so then they are totally fine about it. So the second question about H4 EAD and their unemployment is totally a question for the state where they reside in. So it depends. So a lot of things are related to the state. So they have to be very particular, and they have to go through the process related to the state's what they have, the rule and regulation. So we cannot make it a generalized answer to overall H4 EAD and unemployment. So want to make it very clear about it. And then there are two things that they have to differentiate between. So the CARES Act is one that has provided unemployment insurance, as most of us know. But what is that related to the non-immigrant community is not very clear about it. So, so there is an, like I have the data with me. There is one of the Congressional Research Service that has provided on a very clear data about the April 7th. I do have it. Maybe later on I can even share it with you, Will, if that is possible for them to
great.
do it. Yeah. So, so that is very clear about the stimulus check, because there was a lot of questions on that. I'm sorry, I'm diverting a little bit from your question because I thought this can be clarified and then we'll go towards
That's
the
great.
EAD. So the stimulus, the check question, even though it was earlier when they released it, we were clear that even the non-immigrant community can be one of the, they can use that, if as long as they qualify in other criteria. But the April 7th is very clear that they do qualify for the stimulus check, even though being a non-immigrant, which is on a H1 and L1. They're very clear about it. So I can say that they qualify for it as long as they have a social security number and they are the resident for the meaning of the state where, like IRS regulates the resident criteria, which most of them are aware of, the 33 days and then the 183 days on the 3 years part of it. So that is one question. And unemployment related to the CARES Act is not very clear whether the non-immigrants are going to be benefited out of it. So that we can leave it apart. And for us, going back to the question of H4 EAD and their unemployment, so they do qualify as long as they had been paying towards their contribution towards the state, along with their employer being, like on their salary and everything that being taken. But as I said, it's totally up to the state. And one part of the question that comes up to unemployment is, whether when they benefit and they are eligible to work, so that qualifies them because they are an EAD and it is not tied up to any particular employer like that of a H1B. If you take an H1B and when they are laid off, that's it. And so they cannot be, the state cannot help them much because they don't have a valid employment authorization to work for, but that is not the criteria for the H4 EAD. So they have an open employment, so they can work for any employer, like comparing themselves to the H1B. So that makes a lot of difference in them being able to go for an employment and make themselves aware of saying that they are open for jobs which is similar to them, which the state can help them with. But again, I'm insisting it depends totally on the state. And so they have to check with the state where they reside on.
Thank you. No, I think this is very, very helpful for our viewers. I'm pretty sure that our viewers have a lot of questions on the immigration. And once again, folks who are watching this webinar, listening to us, please note, this is, we have the panelists have varieties of experience, a lot of expertise. So we will not be able to answer all the questions. We do have several questions popping up. So we won't be able to answer all the questions, but we will share the information about each one of them. An email ID after this webinar, you will be able to directly reach out to them. Then if you have any specific legal advice or financial question, or any technology related, please do feel free to reach out to the panelists. One thing that I just wanted to share with you with respect to the healthcare industry, where I work for a large insurance company. If you or someone who is affected by COVID, there is a lot of help available. You don't have to. I think Aetna and few other insurance companies, they do not charge you for treatment. So there is a lot of free resources available. So if you have a good health, if you have a health coverage, before you start spending money or paying from your pocket, talk to your insurance company. They do have some leeway, and they are, I think, covering most of the cost. So that's something that you want to do it. And if you don't have insurance, I think many hospitals don't charge you for COVID-related treatment. So something that I was told. So check with your provider, check with your insurance company, and you are somebody you know needs help related to the treatment. There is a lot of options available because always the health is important. So Ganesh, coming back to the future for all of us, what has happened. There's nothing you can do about it. But when you talk about you are from the New Jersey, New York area.
Yes.
That seems to be, it's a globe. The pandemic only seems to be happening in New Jersey, New York. How bad is that in New York? Because I'm not from New York. A lot of us not from New York. Is it, when you go outside, do you see people really badly affected? Give us some local input to us.
Thank you, but it is very bad out here. To be honest, New York is the epicenter, as you just mentioned, and being New Jersey just an extension of New York, New Jersey is also equally affected, and it is very scary. As you said, what happens when you go outside? There is nobody out there, including myself. We are all locked down. It's almost 4th week, I will say that, and we are just going over 4 weeks, and still we have not seen the peak, is what the governors of both the states are talking about in their briefing. It is kind of very scary because even we are talking about 40 Indians have already passed away with this COVID, with 1,500 people were infected out of whatever the numbers for United States, like we're talking 500,000 people. In that, there are still 50 Indian people are serious, and a lot of people in New Jersey and New York have passed away, where we also know a few families, they have lost their loved ones. It is, we are still waiting. We are keeping our fingers crossed to see what is next, because what has happened, or what we are understanding, is people, the curve is flattening from the government side, from a way they are looking at it as a new cases. But the people who are infected, they are in the hospital for a week, 10 days, 15 days, 18 days, and they are in the ventilators and passing away. That is very bad at this point. What we are hoping is Louisiana, Michigan, and other states should not get more affected as it has affected New York. When New York, New Jersey flatten out their curve, that same thing should not happen to other states, is what we are praying.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Appreciate that. I think, if you really, really want to keep your pressure normal, don't watch TV. But if you want to really pump up a little bit on your blood pressure, I think the turning on TV, listening to this news, it is sad, and it's also increasing your pressure. At least I stopped watching TV for the last few days. I haven't seen TV in 3 days because I'm quarantined in my room. I had been tested for COVID, fortunately got negative, but even it is scary. It's scary for a lot of us, especially when you have children at home, living with the family, getting on each other's nerve. That is not easy. I would prefer to be in a quarantine room. All right. So, Prabakar, there is one question from, if you were to pick top 2 skills, hey, these are the 2 skills that you should focus, especially for IT folks, what would you recommend?
Okay, I'll take 30 seconds to answer it. Number 1, I mentioned that a lot of changes, 30 to 40%. That 30 to 40% changes are not a job loss. It is actually skill loss. So currently there are about 8 million IT professionals in the US, but the need is 9 million. We are already short of 1 million tech people. There is a skill gap. That will get accelerated. So the 30-40% will be a skill change, but not a job change. We need more people. So to answer your specific questions, cloud native technologies are part of digital transformation. We modernized the legacy applications, we put it into cloud, but the cloud native redevelopment using tools like, maybe from Docker to any other technologies and automation, that's going to be a very high demand. Cloud native technologies, number one. Number two is a SaaS. From legacy to modernization, companies are moving, instead of going from new product development, they go to new SaaS tools. One example is like Salesforce. They are projected to grow, 100% in next 2 to 3 years. That's the kind of adoption. So like SaaS tools like Salesforce, ServiceNow, Pega, and RPA tools. All of them are part of a digital transformation. So I would recommend those are best technologies to learn. And my final statement is, you may have an opportunity to work in 2 jobs when we come out of COVID. One may be full-time, one may be part-time. So you may have an opportunity to earn 30 to 40% more when we come out of this crisis, because the remote and flexible workforce going to be a lot more powerful. And if you learn new technologies, obviously you can work another job at home.
Thank you. And I think I can retire sooner. So I'm thinking to retire soon. So this will be great opportunity. Thanks so much. So one of the things that what bothers me, I've gone through recessions since the Gulf War II. That's when I started my career, and then 2001, .com, all kinds of crap. But when it comes to the real estate, a lot of us own houses. We want to buy houses. Praveen, are you there, Praveen? So
yeah,
maybe
I'm here.
you can help us to see, is it a good time to sell a house or buy a house?
You should look at it by need, right? Anything with houses, if you need a house, you need to buy a house, and not look at more as an investment opportunity. Right now, the interesting thing is rates have gone down, but credit spreads have increased. What that means is that the rate is the underlying risk-free asset, which is the treasury rate, which the mortgage rate is based on, went down. So you saw the mortgage rates fall substantially. And then over the last few weeks, that mortgage rates actually have gone up because the spread has increased because of people being laid off. We don't know what the default risk is going to be. If we approve a home loan, are they still going to have a house to pay for it, and so on and so forth. So I think that market has stabilized. I think the rates are not going anywhere. It's going to stay pretty much where it is today for the rest of the year, at least. And I would assume that house prices will come down, unfortunately, because there are going to be people that are going to be laid off, and there's going to be foreclosure and excess supply in the marketplace, and a period of time for it to be for that to be absorbed. So,
thank you, Praveen. So it's a buy, sell, hold, depending on the needs.
Yep.
There you go. That's a great answer. All right. So it's amazing how, as Prabakar said, or even we're all seeing it. The company that I work for, we have about 26,000 employees. Pretty much 100% work from home. So the lesson that we learned working from home, especially a large company, I'm talking about not smaller organization, when you have 25,000 employees and 15,000 contractors, we work from home. The lesson that we learned, as Prabakar said, in the future, you don't have to move to get a better job. If you're especially in a senior level leadership, executive level, there's a myth that you have to move. All my senior level management, exec level people are different parts of the country. They're still able to function it. So I think this is a great lesson for us. In my opinion, if you have the right skills, there's certainly opportunity will be more. One thing that I'm a part of a couple of online executive technology forum community folks. One thing that we are all sharing, it's not just knowing the technology, it's about taking the technology to help articulate the business problem. A lot of our technology folks, we focus on technical skills or technology skills, but it is very important in the future, right? Especially when we come out of this recession that we go through, I sincerely believe that ability
கேக்குதா?
for people.
ஓகே ஓகே.
Can you all mute, please? I know there's a lot of questions popping up. There are 100 people online. Maximum we can only get 100 people. A lot of them are on Facebook. So please bear with us. Next time we will have more people we can open up. But Facebook Live is happening. So the important thing is, you should be able to articulate, regardless of what field you are in. And then, as Prabakaran said, you got to be a technology savvy. You cannot start using a legacy technology, try to provide the best possible service. It won't happen. So you got to upgrade your skills. You got to be able to learn the business. So the big question for Ganesh, I'm going to be a little bit technology based. I'm going to go to your word that is called SAP, which is the company that you are running or leading. When I hear from Prabakaran, he talks a lot about cloud transformation, and he hasn't mentioned SAP. So how do you counter argue that, hey, you know what, SAP is a cloud? If people I'm sure there are a lot of SAP consultants out here. Or they know SAP, they'll be integrating with SAP. What's your thought on it? How do you counter argue with Prabakaran? He says SAP is the best.
SAP as a product, I had been working with SAP for the last 25 plus years, and I've worked for SAP and created products for them. SAP is a very strong ERP product, and they had been there as well as Oracle Financials and some ERP products. They are the core. They are the digital core. You mentioned digital transformation, but they are the digital core because they run the finance, controlling, and critical part. Like Salesforce is going to be really a great product in the market, and it is accomplishing quite a lot of market share, but it is interconnected with any of these ERP products. So SAP, they have also moved into cloud. In fact, with the new program what SAP and Microsoft has jointly come in called Embrace, they call it. They can look at it at Google. We are doing quite a lot of SAP running as a SaaS product for them. Their HR product is called SuccessFactor. Their other products like Concur, Ariba, their e-procurements and all are being used by many, many companies, and they have a tight integrations to Salesforce. So as a company, we are doing pretty good. SAP is going to do very well. Their new S4 stack, we call it S4 HANA products, are already out there. Yeah, COVID is going to little bit, I call it slow down the growth by saying because the customers are going to put some, they're going to go through some funding issues. They're going to put some hold on those funding. But ultimately, if a company have to thrive, as I said earlier, they have to invest in technology. And it has nothing to do with that.
Okay, thanks. So you still recommend, if anybody is continuing to work on SAP, still continue to upgrade the skills. There is a lot of opportunity.
There are S4 products I consider that people can definitely look at it. S4 HANA on their central finance, their HCM, all those products are pretty, very strong in the market.
Thank you. So, the biggest challenge for us, a lot of entrepreneurs here on the call, and then we also have a lot of individuals who know how to manage their money, and they try to figure out. People like me, I'm always fascinated by how this damn money concept work. We bring money, we spend money, and we try to save money, which means we don't save money, and there is a lot of financial discipline required to be successful family man or a businessman. So when it comes to this tough time, Praveen, you're a commercial banker. What are the two things that you would advise us as a financial discipline as an individual level, not a business level, as an individual? What are the two things that you would recommend?
So I would actually answer it what I look for as a resume. One thing that I look for every company that I analyze, the first thing I look for is retained earnings, which
No,
is
I'm
on the
talking,
balance sheet.
sorry, maybe I didn't ask. I want individually, if you want, as an individual, not a business side, what are the financial discipline you recommend?
Cash is king. Liquidity is everything.
Got it. So just put it underneath your mattress, sleep on it. Is that what you're saying?
No, I would keep it at a bank.
Okay.
Not on the
Especially go to Byline Bank. Byline Bank is a good bank. Keep the money over there. Okay, all right.
Any bank, because if you keep it in the mattress, then what happens is you don't get it in the system. It doesn't benefit everybody. When you keep it at a bank, it creates oil for the economy and it helps everybody. You know.
So you are
because
there was a friend of mine said, "Oh, there may not be money in ATM. Let's go get the money from ATM." Do you think the COVID is that bad that we should go bring the money inside the house, or just keep it inside the ATM machine or inside the bank?
You're ordering everything online, right? People are afraid to take cash because cash could have the virus on it. So we're seeing automated payments have increased substantially through Zelle and other payment sources. Even when you go to the local grocery store, and they ask me, the Indian grocery asked me to email my grocery list ahead of time and then pay through Zelle. And then I go and they have a person that comes outside and hands me the grocery bag. And this is an Indian grocery store. So we're seeing a lot of, electronic payments happening because there's no touch.
So you are saying that there will not be a challenge for us, that our ATM machine will still work. Bankers like you will go to the office or work from home to make sure that we can access our cash. Is that a fair statement?
Yes. So we're considered an essential service. So majority of our branches are still open. Out of the 65 branches, we only closed 5. We did shut down the lobby area. It's only appointment only if you want to go meet with a banker. But the drive-throughs are all still open.
Got it. Okay. So this is great. Thank you. So I'm going to go into a little bit personal with all the panelists. All this, when I say personal, Ganesh, how do you keep sanity inside the house, 4 walls? What is your process to keep yourself a sane person with the family and everything? What are the things that you do and you can share with our viewers?
Technically, we have to follow, first of all, what government wanted, lockdown, a stringent lockdown, not to unnecessarily venture out. But when you're inside the house, as people were mentioning, cleaning your hands, both hands by soap, and people say 20 minutes, but it is very hard. But also to maintain distance. I have 2 daughters, one working, one in college, and my wife. We are at 4 corners. Let me tell you, we may say that we are at home, but we are literally distanced ourselves. We are not trying to be as close as possible. We are maintaining that. And also all the other things, like any mails come in, we are not just going and just picking it up, or anything you order online. If they leave it out, we just carefully take it, not immediately leave it for some time, take it with gloves and make sure, like what doctors mentioned, clean them before you can put them in the fridge or wherever you're going to store. So it's ultimate. We have to keep cleaning. You have to quarantine yourself even inside the house with certain social distancing.
God, thank you. Prabakar, what do you do with your family? How do you keep the sanity inside the house?
Inside the house, I think, I don't want to repeat everything what Ganesh is saying, but I'll give a little different input that I want to share personally. As an entrepreneur, when you're a CEO, when you're running a company, you have a lot of responsibilities. So I would like to share this with all the aspiring entrepreneurs on behalf of ATEA. The 3 things that I recommend, which I do every day. Number 1, I run 4-5 miles a day, which is about an hour. 1 hour, pretty good exercise, at least 6 days a week, maybe 1 day exception. Number 2, I learn 1 hour a day. I attend a lot of webinars like this. I think most of the audience will, agree with me that how much you learn this 1 hour. That's the enormous and extraordinary. This is the time that you need to learn. Spend at least 1 hour a day, at least 5 days a week. That's the number two. The third one, which is very, very important, which I see as the biggest value that as my learning experience in the last 15 years of running a company, give 1 hour back. One day, every day, give 1 hour back, maybe 5-6 hours a week. We all can contribute to somebody, and giving that 1 hour back, maybe whatever you know, train somebody, or whatever you are learning, go and help somebody to build something. You have a domain expertise, you have technical knowledge, and you have learned a lot, so find a way to give back that 1 hour. It need not to be money, but your time and your expertise. And even all the panels, I'm learning everything in today, and we are all contributing, but not just a taker, but be a giver. That will get you more. And in my connection, and Ganesh knows, and we are all goes, and every ATEA meeting we go and attend it just to present and be on the panel for 1 hour. We spend 20, 30, even 50, or even 100 hours, but that is a valuable thing that we all can give back. So I take this opportunity to thank, to give back. I take this opportunity to thank everyone for allowing me to give back my 1 hour to all of you.
Thank you so much, Prabhakar. Praveen, I know you're a banker, work long hours. At least you pretend that you're working long hours, because we see a lot of. So what's your perspective, and how do you keep your sanity inside the four walls?
I like the assumption that you keep that I am sane. But I think the key is routine. For me, routine is key. I used to go into the office every day, and working from home has been a challenge because I have two young kids, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, that doesn't understand space, or that I have to work. So trying to maintain a routine, and also taking time to spend with them. And also, like the two speakers said before me, is going outside and going for a walk. So you have a mental break.
Thank you so much, Mary. And you have to be a counselor in chief. There are a lot of people calling for help, and they will be very emotional. And you got to deal with your client base is different. We are technology folks. We don't deal with a lot of emotions. But how are you dealing with the external pressure and catering to your needs of the family?
Sure. Okay. So the same thing, but again, I do have, both of them are older kids. The older one is working, and the other one is in the final year of a college. So it's not like other women who has to be, totally towards, I understand they're part of it. But the one thing I had been doing and is expected of me is lot of talking. And so on the call or someone, wherever I can step into this. And so my family, all the other three in the home, my husband and the two kids, they all moved to one room, and the whole of my downstairs is for me. So can move around. I can, that's the end of it. Sometimes, as I know all of you, Prabhakar and everything saying is end of it, when I look back the day, how much it's not about the, the paperwork I do or whatever the support at this time in particular. When looking back the day, I realized that not the legal advice, as I said, a person has 2 jobs and he is looking for, the only thing I end of the call, I told him was just be on a better side of it. And so he said that's the best part, that he could take it from the call. So somebody needs some kind of a support on that part, everything is going to be okay. Some small words matters a lot for them, and talking back and forth. I know at this time, I don't have much to offer them on the legal side of it, because it's still the same and the limitations are there. But on the other side of it, as a human being, where that role plays a very big important thing in their counseling and everything. So that I take it as a value, and I try my best to talk to people and help them out as much as possible towards it. So things are okay, managing well, I would say.
Thank you for sharing. And I just wanted to share my 2 cents on how we do it. I'm an early riser. I wake up probably around 4:35. I have a routine that I follow. Get up, exercise, do meditation. There is what time I take shower, what time I get onto my computer. The bad habit, because of the work from home, I don't stop my computer by 5:30. Sometimes I tend to go longer hours. So that is something that I'm a little bit more trying to get a better handle on it. But it's important that people, we are living inside the house or an apartment or a condo. It is very challenging for a lot of us. And so regardless of, especially some states, we are, the place where I live, you are allowed to walk, but some places I was told that you can't even walk outside. They're very strict. So so you keep your sanity. Everybody who's listening, please make sure that, if your health is not there, there is no entrepreneur, there is no finance, there is no legal issue, because you are not there. So health is the key. One of the things that I want to share with you about the healthcare workers, there is, it was unfortunate that I had to go for ER for some health related issue to check it out. The healthcare workers are at their best. I would say, I mean it, they were at their best. They were overwhelmed. They were extremely compassionate, and they did not care about what's going on outside. Once you go inside the hospital where I visited, it was overcrowded, a lot of COVID patients, but the service that they're providing is amazing. And I'm hearing the same thing from a lot of folks who are doctors, who are supporting the patients. I see the same level of commitment. So we should be very, very thankful for that. So we are coming to few more questions, and I know we are running out of time. So the question I have, the closing questions, we'll start with Mary. If you were to find a lot more information about the visa related, what is your recommendation? Where do we go to collect information?
I'm not getting your question.
So in order for, there are a lot of questions here. I don't think we can get to all the questions. Where do we find information of the questions that they have about the legal visa related questions? What is the best site to go to, or where do we find information?
Find the legal. So the legal question is like, I would definitely, because there are so many other, even we get in WhatsApp, so is it going to happen and everything. Most of them are very, like a fake or whatever, their own questions. So I would say definitely, USCIS is trying their best to update what is happening on the uscis.gov. So most of them, they are updating the site, and there is the latest of the information, even with the biographic, if it has been canceled, until what time it has been extended. All those informations are available. So that's the best for them to go. And in particular to their own specific, say that there is a visitor visa extension to be done, there are general rules which still applicable to them as updated, so they can go over there, and that's the best that they could do at this time to learn about it. But as a last word, I would say, it's nothing to panic about where you are in. There are always an options, which on a good faith, if that has been conveyed to USCIS, what is the delay, and there is a reasonable effort behind it. They are still hearing it out, and then we can always find an option or a solution for it. So don't panic, and there's nothing like you have to lose your sleep on that. So we can definitely do that, but it's individual based, the needs are, but still people are there to help them out, and we can, they can do it in a better way.
Thank you. So the question, one quick question, and then we move on to the next panelist. So if you are an H4 person, if you get unemployment, will it affect the green card?
So that is very specific, and there is no public share that's going to happen because of that, but they have to disclose it at the time of filing their petitions for the 485 or anything, that there was an unemployment that has been availed of. But to my knowledge, no, that's not going to affect them. They have to disclose it, but doesn't mean that will be affected.
Great, thank you. So the next question, as a closing point, we only have a few minutes left. Ganesh, if you were to advise people to look for some online resources to retool their skills, where do you recommend, if you have any good place to go?
I would take that question in a different way in 30 seconds.
Sure.
I strongly feel that there are a lot of people whom, as an entrepreneur, I had been hearing and seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a good time to start a business? People used to linger that in mind. And
Right.
I strongly feel this is a great time. And only few things I wanted them to consider if they are, because this jobs and other things, what is affecting them. But to what Prabakar said and all the newer technologies we were talking about, it is a great time if people have a good thinking in their mind to start. And that too, with this COVID-19 has taught us to work remotely. There is no point for people to panic because people should be more happy from a technology's perspective. Only thing they have to make sure is their current financial situation before they can think of doing, because they could not put their family in jeopardy. But also how much time they would like to commit to this and focus. Then they can make the decision. But only one advice to existing business owners or future entrepreneurs, for me, many people think ideas is business. I would say idea is not a business. Immediately people say, if I have a great team, can I able to accomplish it? From my standpoint, my experience, no. If you have a good business model, can you accomplish? I would again say no. Some people say funding. If I raise funding, I can accomplish any business. I would say no. The only best thing they have to look at timing, time to market. And I felt this COVID-19 has given the best opportunity and time, how they can rethink. The world is rethinking. The world is remade with COVID-19. And with this, they can create, if they have a very good idea, if they can execute it, this is the right time. And in fact, as a company, we filed a couple of patents last week.
Thank you so much. That's actually a better answer, and my thanks to that specific perspective. Appreciate it. So, Prabhakar, do you agree with your friend Ganesh with respect to starting a business? Is it the best time?
500%. I started TechFetch in the last recession, 2007 and 8. That was the best time. I didn't know that it was a recession, but as Ganesh mentioned, I'm starting a new company. We are putting all the pieces together, and we have 10 times bigger vision that we are trying to start a new company. As a 100%, I agree with Ganesh what he is saying, because this is the best time to start a business. I'll just give another 30 seconds answer. We are not likely to see another new company come and evolve and create 100,000 tech jobs, which is not likely. It may be, but I see very less possibilities. But there may be an opportunity to have or creation of 100,000 tech companies that will create 10, 20 employees. That is the current opportunity that we have. It is a 10 times more opportunity than for larger companies because of tools and technologies available. That's one. Number two, most of the successful companies, if you see number of successful companies percentage wise, are started by people who are after 30, 40 years old rather than fresh graduates. So the art of becoming a success, because you know the business, you have the fundamental knowledge of the business and domain. And if you start a business, I think you will solve a real critical business-wide problem rather than some glorified idea. So this is an opportunity to start a company. I wish all of you good luck and become an entrepreneur.
Thank you so much. Praveen, will you give money for a new startup?
No.
Right.
So short answer is no. Banks, we don't charge much interest, right? So startup operations are harder to finance. We look at four things on any transaction that we look at. One is the most important is cash flow, and we rely on historical cash flow as the best indicator of future cash flow to pay back the loan. To give you an example, if I do 10 loans at 100,000 and charge 4%, I made 40,000. If I lose money on one loan, I lost money on everything. right? So we don't charge enough interest to take the risk to finance a startup operation. So unless, in any loan we look at 4 things: cash flow, collateral, balance sheet, and guarantee. Cash flow is about 45-50%. Again, I said, it's not the best estimate, but it's most accurate estimate we have is the historical cash flow of the business. So we look at established companies and to support them. So you have other sources like in the SBA program, through the 7A loan, they do look at startups where the government provides guarantees and provides the backstop for the bank to do those.
Thank you so much. So to start a business, I guess, what is the best advice you have if you want to collect money? Is it family, friends, personal funds?
Family, friends, and your capital. And then once you have a track record of cash flow, then you can go to the bank to refinance those debt.
Perfect. Thank you. So we are closing at 11:31. First of all, I wanted to thank you for everyone who joined the meeting, and panelists truly appreciate joining us this morning. So I wanted to thank our volunteers. This has not been easy effort. There is a lot of effort put in. So I wanted to recognize our ATEA Midwest chapter, Chairperson Siva Mupanar. He's the one who helped us to organize this. He's the chairperson. He covers the entire Midwest from us an ATEA executive. And I would like to say, we have quite a few volunteers behind it. Karthik, Prakash is there, and Vasu, Ravi. There are so many people who have participated in it. And I wanted to thank everyone for the great time that they put in to organize this. And I be safe. Always, number one, be safe, be healthy, and then everything else falls in place. And I will see you next time. Until then, be safe, and we will talk soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.